Hello everyone, my name is Eunice and thank you for stopping by my channel. In this video, I'll be sharing with you all how I made this beautiful cropped corset dress you see right here on the mannequin. In my previous video, I showed us how to draft and cut this dress. So this is the sewing video. So I'll just give us a quick recap on the features of this corset dress. First, I already mentioned that it's a cropped corset dress. It has a yoke, a front yoke, which is a sweetheart yoke, and it also has a back yoke, and it's a keyhole back yoke. And it has this attachable or detachable sleeve, as you want to call it, as the sleeve. So you can wear this dress with or without the sleeve. You can tack it to it or you can just wear it to your upper arm. And it also has a wrapper fox. I stitched the wrapper fox to the center back and we have a skirt hook holding it here at the side. So the wrapper fox is not tacked to it, so you can remove it easily. Just fix it anyhow you want it. Okay, and you can see it's the down part is a short pencil skirt. This is beautiful and it is really simple to make. My previous video on the cutting part is really detailed, so if you haven't seen the video, I will drop the link in the description box. So do well to check the link so that you can watch the video and understand how we came about this. The link is also going to be in the description box. So please, sorry, in the comment section as well. It's going to be pinned there. Okay, so do well to watch the previous video and you will have a clearer understanding. So if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button to subscribe and ensure that you put on your notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Thank you, and let's get right into the video. Okay, so these are the pieces of our cropped corset that we're going to be making. Now this is the front yoke. And you see, this is our front yoke. Let me show us. I have just one piece here. I'm using the just one piece. I'm not lining the yoke. So if you want to line the yoke, that means you're going to have two pieces, but I'm not lining the yoke. And then for this yoke, and you see that I added my sewing allowance at the down part, half inch, and I added half inch at the upper part. But on this side, I didn't add half inch. This is because this corset outfit is a sleeveless outfit. So there is no need adding half inch here because you're not joining a sleeve to it. So by the time I even turn this part with my half inch, I'll create a bias that I used to turn this part. It will make it come inward the more. So I'm using exactly the shoulder measurement, which will even subtract half inch from it. So now this is our center curve. As you can see, I have added my hairstay. I've ironed hairstay to the lining and the fabric. I doubled the hairstay and I've added my sewing allowance round. I added a stitching allowance of half inch, and this is the side curve. I did the same thing. I doubled my hairstay, both lining and fabric, and I added stitching allowance round of half inch round the curve. And then this is the the front piece. Remember, I taped it down so that I can have just one piece. Okay, as you can see, around the cup area I added half inch, so you need this stitching allowance. At the down part I also added half inch, and then on the side I added my 2 inches sewing allowance. I ironed my hairstay on both the lining and fabric. I doubled it to give it nice stability. For the back yoke, I did the same thing like I did for the front yoke. Added half inch here, half inch here, half inch here. On the side, I didn't add because it is a sleeveless outfit. So for the side back, you can see also I added half inch this way, half inch this way, and then my 2 inches sewing allowance on both the lining and fabric. So now this is our center back. Can you see? This is our center back, the one that will carry the modesty panel. Now this is it. Let me show us. So you can see that this is the actual center back. That's the part that is straight. So I cut this on fold because we're going to have our bonings here. So I cut this on fold, and then this part is open. So you can see that I added my half inch up and then half inch down, and I also added my sewing allowance here. I cut on fold, so I have two pieces, one for the left and the other will be for the right. So that's it. So now we also have our skirts. It's just a normal pencil skirt. And see, this is our pencil skirt, and I've also added my hemming allowance to the skirt. You can see it. This is the front piece, and this is our back piece. I've also added my hemming allowance. This is lining, and this is the fabric. So this is the wrapper I'll be using to create the wrapper fox on the outfit. So this is the length of this Ankara I'm using is by 45 inches. And now the width that I decided to cut, I cut about 65 inches in length so that the drape will fall well. So that's that about this. So another thing we need to cut is the modesty panel. We'll be using that one to cover the back. That's just like the word modesty panel. You need to cover the back. So for the modesty panel, I'll be joining it to this side. So I'm going to measure the length I have here, and I have 8.5 inches. So the length of the modesty panel is going to be 8.5 inches, the same length as what I have here, so that when we are done, everything will sit well. And then also, the width of the modesty panel to go from one side of the back to the other side. I'm going to make the modesty panel about 13 inches in width. The length is 8.5. So I'll cut that out from Ankara fabric and show us. So we're going to be using this for the back cover. And see, so by the time I turn this part with half inch and turn this part with half inch, that means our modesty panel is going to be about 7.5 inches. So it will go from one side of the back to the other so that it covers it up well. Okay? So we'll go do that, and we'll go to the sewing machine so that we can start stitching our pieces together. So I'll be starting with the front piece. I'll be stitching the bonings on the lining. So I'm going to keep the main fabric aside. So this is our Regilene boning. I will place it from the center. Can you see? From the center front. I'm coming down by a half inch from the starting point, and I'm also going down by a half inch at the that's going up by half inch at the down part. So what do I mean? If the length I have here at the center front down to the waistline is 10 inches, I'm making the bone in 9 inches so that it gives me a space of half inch at the upper part and also half inch at the down part. So I'm going to stitch this bone in at the center front. I'll be stitching on two sides, on the two sides provided for us to stitch our boning. Okay, so I'll stitch this one and then stitch the other side. You want to make sure that you are stitching very close to the edge. You want to do this as neat can be. Okay, so I'll stitch it and then stitch other bonings. So whatever I'm doing on the left of this outfit, I will repeat the same thing on the right. So the placement of the bonings has to be even. Can you see the space I was talking about? So I left half inch at the upper part and I left half inch at the down part. So I'm going to place another bone in. Can you see how I'm placing the bone in? I came down half inch away from the cup area, and I also went up by half inch at the waistline. So I'm going to stitch this bone in. Okay, so I'll also go ahead and stitch other bonings. This totally depends on how many boning channels you want to have on your corset. I think I'm going to have 5 here in front. Okay, so as you can see, I'm done stitching the bonings in front. I have 5 channels here. I also went ahead to stitch on the lining, on the lining that's on the back lining, and this is it. I have 2 boning channels on the back lining, and see. And then for our center back, remember I cut the center back on fold. Okay, so the part that is going to serve as the lining, I stitched 2 bonings on the center back. And I placed the first one exactly after the folded part. And then I left a space of half inch before placing the second one. So the space of that half inch I left is where our are going to sit. Okay. So we'll have the eyelets sitting there. And please take note that the part with the bonings is going to be on the lining side. Can you see what I mean? So the part that has the boning is the part that I'm pinning to the lining side. So this half inch I left here is for stitching it together. And then this is our back piece. That's the main fabric. Can you see it's on the side without the bonings. So I'm going to set this aside so that we can stitch the cups together. So to stitch the corset cups together, I'm going to be stitching the side front and the center front together. Remember, I notched the sides we're joining together so that you don't mistakenly interchange them. Okay, so I'll be stitching on half inch. You want to make sure that you sew it into the cup. Let your stitches align, or let your stitch align. So this will give the cup a balanced look. You don't want to be stitching on quarter inch and then one side is on half inch. Your cup will not be okay. Okay, so having stitched the cups, I went ahead to notch the seam allowance. That's, I cut the seam allowance open and I stitched the second cups, and I did the same thing on the lining. As you can see, I pressed the cup seam lines open. I did the same thing here. So I pressed the seam lines open. I didn't just press it open and leave it like that. I pressed it open and I used haystay paper stay to keep the seam lines open. This way it will not fold, so it will give you a smoother look outside. Okay, so these are the bra cups that we're going to be using. So now you'll notice that this one I'm holding has more depth compared to the other one. So this is because I darted this bra cup, and this particular bra cup is not even it's a bit of a flat cup. It's not the push-up bra cup. Okay, so to achieve that push-up and deep effect, you will need to dart the cup. So I'm going to be using the second one to show us how to create this fullness and depth I have on the other cup. So the first thing you're going to do is to fold the cup into two and notch the down part. Take note of what I said, the down part. And then I'm going to measure 2.5 inches. So between 2.5 inches to 2 inches, between 2 and 2.5 inches is fine. Okay, so I'm going to mark half inch. I'm going to be stitching a dart of half inch and zero rise at that 2.5 inches I marked. Can you see? So I'm going to be darting this cup. So this will help give us that depth and that push-up effect, okay, so that the cup is not flat. But if you are working with a push-up bra cup, you may not have to do this. Can you see what the cup looks like after creating this dart I have here? So it's giving our cup that nice depth, and it is giving it the fullness we want to achieve so that it doesn't give us a flat cup. So I'm going ahead to trim out the excess. That's that. You don't want to leave it there. Just trim it out so that it gives you a nice and smooth look around there. Okay, so I'll also do the same thing here. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to cage this cup. So now you'll notice that if you press the cup can just easily go down. Okay, because this is just a bra cup. So, and it is not so, it's not firm. So to give it that firm look, here I have my regime boning. I'm going to be caging this cup. I'm just going to be stitching the bonings to it to give it that firmness, so that even after some time, that's even when the dress is folded, to not give us that flat look. Okay, sometimes these bra cups, they become flat after some time, so you want to avoid that problem. That is why I'm doing this. Can you see how I'm placing the regime boning into the cup, following the shape? Okay, so, and I've measured out what I need. I've taken note of the measurement. So I'll place the boning into the bra cups just like this. Just watch carefully. So, and then I'll go ahead and stitch it. Just stitch it following the curved shape. Make sure you are stitching it curved. Make sure you follow the depth. Don't widen the cup. Don't make the cup flat. So just watch carefully how I'll be stitching it. Just make sure that the boning sits inside the cup, following the depth. That's the deepness that is there. Okay. I think with the way I'm explaining this, you should be able to understand what I am talking about. As you can see, I'm done stitching the first boning. And you see, so the boning is sitting really well in the cup. So I'm going to place the second boning. So now this is it. You can see how I'm crisscrossing the second boning. So I'm placing it in a cross shape. It's crossing over the first boning. And this is me going ahead to shape the tip of the boning. You want to make sure that you are leaving half inch around the cup. Don't let the tip of the boning touch the outer part of the bra cups. Okay, make sure you have a space of half inch. That's going to be your seam allowance. So don't stitch your boning from the beginning of one side to the end. If you do that, you will not be able, the cup will not turn. You won't be able to stitch it to the corset base. So make sure that you are leaving half inch where the boning is starting and where it ends. Okay, and that's exactly what I did for the first one. So make sure to leave that half inch. Okay, don't stitch from the beginning till the end. So I haven't done this crisscross. Next, I'm going to place one in the middle, just in the center, and also stitch it. So this will give the bra cup a very nice firmness. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, as you can see, I'm done caging the bra cups, and you can see how firm it is. So this is a very simple way of caging your bra cups or your corset cups to give you that nice firmness when you don't want to do a bust caging. Like I said, that this video is beginners friendly. So if you are new into corset making, this is something you want to start with. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is to place the bra cup into the corset cups. So first you want to make sure that the point where you have the dart aligns with the darted area of the corset cups. That's where we stitch it together. So that's where the dart is. So can you see I'm placing my cup and I'm making sure I'm leaving half inch round the cup. So you want to make sure to place the cup very well. This cup is already well molded and the bra cup too is already well caged. So it will just balance up inside the corset cups. Okay. So just pin it round, so make sure to stretch it out. You don't want to have any gathering anywhere. So just pin the cups inside the corset cup and make sure that you are leaving your half inch for stitching allowance round. So remember that on the corset cups, we don't have up to half inch on the cups. So I'm placing the cup inside and making sure that on the corset cups that we have up to that half inch. So we'll stitch it. Okay. So now I'm going ahead to stitch the corset cup to the bra cups. Okay, so I'll be stitching on the little allowance we have on the bra cups. On the bra cups we have about just quarter of an inch, so I placed it half inch inwards so that it balances up. Okay, so that's basically it. So I'll stitch it round. So now you also notice that this bra cup did not cover up the corset cup completely. So I'm going to be using my normal wording, which is also called breast pad, to fill up the part, the space I have. So this depends on the size of your cup and depending on how covered the cup is. That's in a situation where you are exposing cleavage. This may not, you may not have to make up this area because your cup, that's the neckline, may come down deeper. But because in this case, we are not exposing cleavage, so that is why the cup is a bit high. That's depending on how you draft it. Okay, so this is a bit high, so we're making up the part that the already made bra cup did not cover up. Okay, so here I have my wording, and you can see I cut out exactly the same size as the cup. So and I'm placing it to sew them together, so I'm just using it to fill up the space. Can you see? So this is it. So for the wording, it's just about 1.5 inches I cut. Okay, and the width is the width of the cup. So I'll just place my hemming gum in between the that's in between the wording and the corset cup so that we can use it to gum them together. I don't want to leave this space open. So this is just a way to fill it up. Okay, you can see it's sitting really well. So I'm going to repeat exactly the same thing I have done on this bra cup on the second bra cup, and then I'm going to show us the next thing to do. Okay, so after ironing the word into the bra cups, this is what I have. You can see it sitting well. So the next thing we're going to do is to stitch the bra cups to the corset base. Okay, so now to stitch the bra cups to the corset base, I'm going to notch the curved area. So this is a very easy way. This will make it easy for you to stitch. Can you see? I'm notching around the curved part, especially the curved part. The curved part is more sensitive. This is so that it stretches out well and you will stitch easily. Can you see what is happening here? So you want to make sure to do this. This will make your work a lot easier. Okay. So, and you can see that while pinning it, you see that it got exactly to the end of corset cups. So when you notch it this way, you're not going to have any shortage. If you do this correctly, you won't have any shortage. So please, when you are notching, make sure you are notching on your seam allowance. You don't have to notch the entire seam allowance, which is half inch. Okay, you can notch about quarter of an inch. So that quarter of an inch will give you that flexibility, so it will allow it turn well, and then you will stitch on half inch. You don't have to notch the entire half inch, which is your stitching allowance. Okay, remember I said I notched on quarter inch. Okay, so this will allow you turn easily. Can you see how I'm stitching it? So this will allow you turn it easily and stitch it all the way to the other end without too much struggle. Remember I said that this is a beginner's tutorial, so this will make it easy for you. If you are new to corset making, this will it's definitely something you should try, so that you will not have to struggle too much to make a basic corset. Okay, after stitching the back up, I went ahead to notch the seam allowance round. So this will help our cup relax well, so that when we press it, it can sit really well. So I'm going to repeat the same thing by stitching the second cup on the second side. And then I'll also repeat the same thing on the linings. Okay, I repeat the same thing on the lining and then take it to my ironing table and give it a very nice press. Then I'll show us the next thing to do. Okay, so after ironing our corset, the next thing to do is to top stitch the seam allowance. Okay, so this is to help keep that seam allowance area flat. So just watch carefully how I'm top stitching. I'm going to top stitch it around the cup. So I'm stitching the seam allowance, that's the seam allowance, to the main corset. So this will help keep this in place. So you want to make sure to turn it gently, and then remember that this stitch is on the outside, so you want to make sure that your stitch is even, so you don't want to miss it here at this point. So it has to be very neat. Can you see? So I've top stitched it. So in this case, if you have a bra wire, or if you have bra wires, you can insert the bra wire into that space where you stitched. So you will need to determine the width of your bra wire, or how wide the bra wire is, so that you know what you are sewing on. You don't want to make the stitch too tiny and the bra wire cannot pass through. Okay, so you work with the bra wire you're working with. But if you don't have bra wire, just like I don't have, you don't have to bother yourself. This, by top stitching it to keep it down. So this is our lining. I also placed a boarding at the center front. Okay, just at the center, I crossed it on the chest area, so this will help keep the corset cups in place. You don't want it folding around there. So that's the essence of stitching that cross boning. So now we're done with the front piece, or we're going to keep the front piece aside for now. Then we'll go ahead and treat the back. Okay, so for the back, this is our modesty panel. As you can see, I've stitched the other side, so I left this part open. That's where I turned it out from. So the part that is open is the part I'll be stitching in between the side back and the center back. So now you can see I'm placing the modesty panel on the right side of the lining. Okay, that's on the lining of the side back. I hope we understand what I'm trying to say. and I'm placing a half inch below the upper part and then half inch upwards. So of course, after stitching the half inch around the modesty panel, is going to leave that space. So I haven't placed it that way. Now this is our center back, the one that is going to carry the eyelets. So now I'm going to place this side that has the boning on top of the modesty panel. So this side is the lining side. So I'll stitch all three of them together. Okay, so after stitching them together, this is what it looks like. Can you see how the modesty panel will cover? We'll just go from one side of the back to the other side. So next I'm going to stitch the main fabric now. So take note that I'm stitching the main fabric to the other side of the eyelet panel. That's to the side without the boning. Can you see? So I'll go ahead and press the same lines open. So I'll have it this way. So I'll repeat the same thing on the second side. So the second side does not have a modesty panel. So it's just going to be direct stitching. Okay. So this is our yoke. This is the back yoke, and I've already stitched one side, so I'm using this side that's going to have the button loop on. I used the ankara to create a button loop, and then I inserted my elastic into it so that it gives it that nice and gathering effect. You don't want to just use normal elastic, so that's why I use the ankara to cover it, so it will give it a stylish look. So I haven't stitched the button loop to the net. Then next I'm going to place the lining. For the back it has a lining, so I cut two pieces of the net, so I'm using the net to line the net. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch around the neckline and then stitch down the keyhole. So I'll go ahead and stitch that and then turn it inside out and give it a nice press, and then I'll show us how we'll be attaching this yoke to the back. So after stitching the back yoke, I'm going ahead to trim my excess, that's the excess seam allowance. And then the next thing to do is to join the shoulders of the front and back together. So for the front yoke, I'll need to reshape the neckline. I'm going to have to trim out the excess because the front yoke does not have a lining. So that half inch I already stitched at the back is going to make the front yoke narrower than the back. So that's why I trimmed out that half inch, okay, which is my joining allowance. So next I'm going to join the shoulders together of both the front and back, and then I'm going to use my ankara bias. I use the ankara to create a bias that I'll be using to turn the armhole area. Remember, we're making a sleeveless outfit, so we're going to use the ankara to turn the armhole area. Okay, so after turning the armhole, the next thing to do is to stitch the front yoke to the front part of our corset. Okay, so I'll place the yoke and I make sure to align the center front of our yoke to the center front of the corset. So, and I'm stitching on half inch. I'm stitching from the center to the side here. Okay, so this is what we have on this side. So next I'm going to stitch this side. So take note that I notched the center front. So by notching the center front, this will allow my fabric to be flexible so that it can turn well. And then I'll go ahead and stitch the second side. So now I'm stitching from the side to the center front. So you just want to be seeing what you're doing. It's not like it is wrong to stitch from the wrong side of your fabric, but this is easier. Okay, so after doing this, now I'm going ahead to shift my net before we can place the lining. You'll notice that the net is gathering around that center front area. If you don't shift the net very well, if you don't pin it to the cup area, it can obstruct your stitch. It can just gather around there, so you don't want to do that. So make sure that you pin the net to the cup areas. Okay, and then this is me pinning the lining. So right now I'm going to stitch from the fabric side, from the main fabric side, so that I can see the previous stitch. That's the stitch I made when stitching my yoke, so that you can stitch exactly on that same stitch. Okay, You don't want to stitch on less, neither do you want to stitch on more. Try to stitch exactly on the previous stitch so that it keeps your yoke in place. So, and this is it. Can you see? So I'll go ahead and take this off. So you can see how it is gathering around here. So if I hadn't pinned it, it will not even sit well around there. So you want to make sure to do this. Okay, so now that I'm sure that my yoke has come out really well, I'm going ahead to notch the neckline so that I can give this a very nice press. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to stitch the back yoke. Okay, so I'll bring in the back piece so that we can also stitch the back yoke. So this is our back piece here, you see. So I'm going to place them like this, right side of the yoke facing right side of the back piece. Can you see? So you want to make sure that it aligns at that armhole area. Remember, I added a sewing allowance of 2 inches, so I'm making sure to measure that 2 inches because it's a sleeveless outfit. The yoke did not get to the armhole area, that it didn't get to the sewing allowance. I hope you understand that. I didn't add sewing allowance to that side sewing allowance to our yoke. Okay, so that's why you don't have to let it get to the end of the armhole. So now this is me stitching the yoke. I decided to do them one after the other so that we can see clearly what I'm doing. So this is our yoke. So after stitching it to the main fabric, now I turn the lining. So I'll go ahead and stitch from the main fabric side so that I can stitch on my previous stitch. So, and this is it. So I'll also go ahead and turn the side since we're doing French finishing, and then I'll go ahead and notch it so that I can turn it out easily. So this is what we have. Can you see? So just use your scissors to push out all the corners that can be a bit hard. So this is what our back looks like. So I'll go ahead and top stitch on this part where I have my boning. Remember, we have a boning on the lining side of the center back. Okay, so you just placing, once you place your hand, you'll be able to feel the bonings. So I'm top stitching on the boning just to keep that place intact. Can you see? So this is it. So I stop stitching on the bonings. That's just what I am doing. So exactly what I have done on this side, I will repeat on the other side. So now this is what we are going to do. Okay, this is what I thought to explain to us. Whenever you are buying your boning, make sure that the plastic boning is a bit smaller than the Regilene boning. This is because you're going to be placing the plastic under the Regilene so that it will be able to pass. So if your Regilene is big, no, if your plastic is bigger than the Regilene, it will be a problem. Okay, so make sure that the plastic is smaller than the Regilene, so this will allow you to be able to insert it under. So like I already told us, I'll be doing double boning technique. So you can see I'm adding the plastic boning, and I'm also I want to make sure to file it. If not, it will be sharp and it will just pull it has a way of making the outfit free to pull it, so it's more like it's a sharp thing. So I'm using a normal nail file to file it so that I give it that smooth movement so that it just passes under the Regilene boning easily. So all the points where I have Regilene boning, I'm going to be placing the plastic boning in between them, and this is to give the Regilene boning a very nice support. So this is it. I'm done with that. So now the next thing to do is to sew the skirt part. So this is our skirt part. So remember, we have a wrapper fox, and this is the Ankara fabric we'll be using for the wrapper fox. I'm just going to pleat the wrapper fox here at the center back. So I'll be starting from around the hip line. That's about 9 inches below the waistline. Okay, so I'll go ahead and just create pleats here. Take note that I'm doing this on the center back, from the center back, because this wrapper fox will go from one side, that's from the center back, that's from the butt side. Okay, and then it will go to the other side of the waist. So that's just basically it. So I'll go ahead and pleat it till I exhaust the entire length I have. Okay, So after doing that, next I'm just going to stitch the pleats down here, and then I'll go ahead and fix my zipper. So that means I'll go ahead and stitch the center back pieces together. So when I stitch them together, I'll go ahead and fix my zipper, and then I will show us the next thing to do. Okay, so after stitching the pleats to the center back, now the next thing to do is to place the right side of the back piece facing right side here at the center back, and then I marked my zip allowance, and then can you see, so I'm leaving 9 inches from the waistline, and I stopped my stitch 7 inches away from the hem. So next I'll go ahead and stitch the zipper, which is what I have done. And then I'm going to bring in my lining. So this is our lining. I'm going to turn the hem. Okay, so I'll turn the hem so that it automatically brings up our hemming allowance of 2 inches. So after turning the hem, I'll use the lining to turn the center back. So I'll be stitching in a way that you stitch the zipper cloth. Okay, that's I'm just going to be leaving the zipper opening. So I'll stitch and stitch in the zipper cloth, and this is what we have here on one side. So I'll also go ahead and turn the other side. So now to stitch the upper back piece to the skirt part. So this is it. You can see I've done one side. So after turning our zipper allowance area, so I'm going to place the upper back piece right side facing right side. That's the upper back to the down part. Can you see? So I'm making sure to align them. So this will give us the space. Make sure that when you are placing the upper back, leave that space of 1.5 inches, what we cut out. That's the part for the lacing, okay? So this is it. So I'll go ahead and stitch it this way. So by pinning the back piece, I pinned it from the side, so it automatically left that space because the skirt waistline is actually bigger than the back waistline because of that 1.5 inches I removed. So I'm doing French finishing. Can you see how I'm tucking in the whole fabric after stitching the waistline? After stitching the waistline and the side, oh no, and the center back. So now I want to turn the side. Can you see how I tucked everything inside? So I'm going to stitch the side seam and then leave a space where I'll be turning out my fabric from. So can you see? So it is really simple. You want to make sure that your work is neat. You don't necessarily have to always weave your outfit. If you can do your French finishing very well, your work will still come out beautiful. If you also want to do inseam finishing, that's also a very good one. But make sure that when you are doing inseam, that you are doing your inseam for someone that the body weight or the body size does not fluctuate. What do I mean by fluctuate? There are people that when you measure them, after some time they put on some weight and they will not be able to wear the outfit. So when you do neat French finishing, it is easy to just open it up at the sides for them, okay? So if need be, but if you are sure that the body weight is consistent, that it doesn't change easily, just do your inseam finishing. I've also made a detailed video on how to cut and sew a corset using inseam finishing technique. So if you haven't seen that video, I will also drop the link to the video in the description box. So do well to watch that video and you will learn how to do that. So in the meantime, this is our corset outfit. Can you see how neat my work is from the inside? So I used French finishing for this, and you can see that the finishing is very, very neat. And see, so here right now, I have marked on my side sewing allowance. So I'm just going to be stitching my sewing allowance all the way down to the hem. So we are almost done with our outfit. We are even done. It's just to stitch the sides. So everything came out really well. So if you have enjoyed watching this video and you have learned something, please, if you are yet to subscribe, please hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and ensure that you put on your notification bell so you always receive a notification every time I upload a new video. And please, if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, please feel free to drop it in the comment section. I'll be there to respond to you. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. And also, if you are yet to share this video with your friends, your loved ones, your family. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. So this was my client when she came in for her fitting. So you can see how beautiful the outfit is on her body. We didn't have to do any adjustment. It just fits perfectly. And see, for the wrapper folks, all I did was to just gather the wrapper folks. You know, you have already pleated it. All I did was to just follow the pleat, and then I tacked using my needle and thread. I tacked it together, and then I placed the hook of our skirt. You know, for the skirt, we have this hook and eye. The eye is on the body, while the hook is on the wrapper folks. Okay, so I tacked the hook to the wrapper folks, and then the eye to her hip area. So that's why I was able to hang the wrapper folks there on her body. And you can see how beautiful the sleeves are attached to this outfit also is. So this sleeve is detachable. You can wear this outfit with or without the sleeves. In my next video, I'm going to be showing us how to make this beautiful detachable sleeve. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something. If you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making this video, please make sure to like first, share this video, and do not hesitate. Please, is there any reason why you should not subscribe? If you have watched the video and you have gained value, the right thing to do is to show support. Please hit on the subscribe button to subscribe. Ensure that you put on your notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. And please share this video, like this video, like I already said, leave nice comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in my next video. Bye and stay safe.